This is a fight of intelligence, strategy, and understanding. A global team of scientists and diplomats was assembled. For the first time, humanity spoke as one. The message they prepared was not simple. It was carefully calculated, meant to communicate determination, intelligence, and the value of human life without threatening the fleet. Ethan, Laura, and Claire worked together, crafting the words. The message was brief, yet powerful. We do not seek war. We do not seek submission. We wish to survive, learn, and grow. We are not your enemy, but we will not disappear quietly. The message was transmitted across the solar system, aimed at the heart of the fleet. For hours, the station waited. Every sensor, every screen, every signal was monitored. Silence followed. Then, slowly, a response came. Not from the fleet itself, but from a single source deep in space. A voice translated by AI appeared on the screens. Maybe you are the chaos the galaxy needs. Ethan felt his stomach tighten. Chaos? What does that mean? Claire leaned forward. It means we are unexpected. We are different. The galaxy did not expect a civilization like ours to respond the way we did. And now, we might have a chance. Laura's face broke into a small smile. We're alive. And they're curious. On Earth, people watch the skies nervously, unsure what to expect next. The fleet remained at the edges of the solar system, moving slowly but deliberately. Yet, for the first time, there was no threat in their behavior. Their observation had changed. They were no longer just watchers. They were learning. Daniel addressed the world. His voice was calm, steady, and firm. Humanity has reached a moment in history that no one expected. We have been watched, tested, and observed. But today, we have shown that we are capable of intelligence, courage, and unity. This is only the beginning. Humanity has a place among the stars. In orbit, Ethan, Laura, and Claire continued their work. The fleet remained mysterious, but the fear had shifted to cautious optimism. Humanity realized that it was no longer just a passive species. It was a participant in something larger than Earth itself. Days turned into weeks. The fleet moved quietly, exploring the solar system, observing human behavior, and testing humanity's ability to adapt. Unlike other civilizations, humanity had responded with careful thought, courage, and cooperation. That alone made them different. Ethan watched the data streams carefully. Every civilization before us failed, he said quietly. They panicked, fought, or hid. We responded differently. We acted with thought, not fear. That might be the reason we survived. Laura nodded. We are the first civilization to respond in a way they respect. That gives us an edge. That gives us hope. Claire added, but we must remain careful. The fleet is still massive. One mistake could undo everything. On Earth, life slowly adjusted. People returned to work, schools reopened, and governments stabilized. The shadow of fear remained, but hope was stronger. Apple Drive, humanity had learned that it was not as small as it once believed. It had intelligence, courage, and resilience. The alien fleet remained a silent presence, a reminder that the universe was vast and full of unknown forces. But for the first time, humanity understood that it could face those forces with thought and determination. One evening, as Ethan, Laura, and Claire looked out at the stars, the fleet's formation shifted slightly. It was subtle, almost imperceptible, but it was clear to the trained eye. The fleet was moving away, slowly, deliberately. Humanity had passed the first test. Ethan whispered, "We did it. We survived the first stage." Laura smiled. "Yes, but survival is not enough. We have to grow, learn, and be ready for whatever comes next. Targeted by the galaxy, Earth triggered chaos. With just one message, the Earth had always seemed quiet to the rest of the universe, at least in the way humans imagined the stars. From their small blue world, people looked up at the night sky and wondered if there was life out there. Most of the time, it felt like nothing answered. The planets, the stars, the vast darkness beyond, they all seemed empty. Humanity was small, fragile, and unimportant. But that belief changed one day. It started with a small research station that floated above Earth, orbiting the planet like a silent watcher. The station was not very big, barely large enough to hold a team of 20 scientists and engineers. They had been studying signals from deep space, listening for anything unusual. Most of the time, they heard only static or echoes from the sun. Dr. Ethan Brooks was the lead scientist. He had brown hair, always a little messy from running his hands through it while thinking. He was tall and his eyes were sharp and alert. Today he stood in the control room, staring at the monitors with a strange mixture of fear and excitement. Next to him was Captain Laura Bennett. She had been in space for years, trained to handle emergencies, but even she felt uneasy as she looked at the strange readings. "Ethan," Laura said, her voice low, "what exactly are we looking at?" Ethan tapped the screen with a finger that trembled slightly. "I'm not sure yet," he admitted. "It's structured. It doesn't match any natural patterns we've ever seen. It's like a language, but not one we know." Laura frowned. "You think it's intelligent?" "I don't think. I know." Ethan paused. "Somewhere out there, someone or something is trying to communicate." The signal had arrived suddenly, a series of pulses that repeated in a way that was too organized to be random. "But maybe for the first time, we are big enough to matter." Laura placed her hand on his shoulder. "We will continue to grow. We will continue to learn, and the galaxy will continue to watch. But now, we know we can face it." Claire added quietly, "And someday, we will explore it fully." The universe is waiting, and we are ready to meet it. The message had been simple. Humanity exists. Humanity is alive. Humanity will not disappear quietly. But the meaning had grown far beyond that. Humanity had proven that intelligence, courage, and unity could survive even the greatest unknown threats. The galaxy had tried to prevent chaos. But with one message, Earth had already begun a new story. And for the first time, the humans of Earth understood something profound. They were not just observers of the universe. They were participants. They were thinkers, learners, and survivors. They were humanity. And humanity had just begun. At first, the station's AI tried to decode it, but it could not match the pattern with anything in its database. The scientists spent hours analyzing it, cross-checking every possible explanation. Nothing worked. The signal was something completely new. The news reached Earth within a few hours. Governments called emergency meetings. Scientists around the world gathered in secure labs watching the data stream in real time. Ordinary people noticed little at first, only strange news flashes about scientists studying an unknown transmission from deep space. Dr. Claire Morgan, a young astrophysicist in Washington, D.C., had been studying signals from the outer edges of the solar system for years. When she saw the data from the station, she felt her heart pound. She had hoped for first contact her whole life, but the reality was terrifying. Something had finally noticed Earth, and humanity had no idea what it was. "They're not just sending greetings," Claire said to her colleagues, her voice shaking. "This is more than a hello. It's a message, and it feels like a question." For days there was debate over what to do. Some governments wanted to ignore it. After all, it could be a trap. a trick by a hostile species. Others argued they should respond immediately to show intelligence and goodwill. In the end, curiosity won. Humanity had always wanted to reach the stars. Now the stars had reached back. A team was assembled to send a response. It was simple, short, and careful. Nothing aggressive, nothing threatening, just proof that Earth existed. Hello, we are here. The message was sent by laser across the void, traveling farther than anything humanity had ever sent before. The team watched as the signal left Earth's orbit, carrying the hopes and fears of millions of people. At first, nothing happened. Hours passed. Days passed. The world waited with quiet tension. And then, at the edges of the solar system, sensors detected something. Shapes moved in the darkness. They were huge, larger than any spacecraft humans had ever built, yet moving with grace and speed impossible to replicate. Fleets formed in patterns that made no sense to the human eye, but felt purposeful, organized. Ethan and Laura watched the screens as the first of the unknown ships entered the outer system. "How many are there?" Laura whispered. Ethan did not answer immediately. He was counting, trying to make sense of the radar readings. There were too many. Hundreds, maybe thousands, stretching beyond the orbit of Neptune. Humanity had expected curiosity. They had not expected attention. "They're coming," Ethan said finally, his voice low, "and I don't think they're friendly." Back on Earth, panic began quietly at first. Stock markets trembled. People speculated about alien life, but most thought it was science fiction. News channels tried to keep order, but the images from space, released by governments in small doses, made it impossible to hide the truth. Something had arrived. Something enormous. Something alien. President Daniel Carter called for a meeting with his advisors. In the secure room, surrounded by screens showing approaching fleets, he spoke quietly but firmly. "What do we know?" he asked. Claire stood nearby, her eyes never leaving the screen. "We don't know much, sir. Only that they saw our message. That alone means Earth is no longer private. They consider us important or dangerous, or both." Daniel rubbed his face. "Important or dangerous? That doesn't sound like a choice we want to make." Laura, standing next to Ethan, spoke up. "Sir, they've been waiting. They're not discovering us now. They've been watching for centuries, probably. And our message, it triggered something." "Triggered what?" Daniel asked, leaning forward. Ethan's voice was barely a whisper. "They have rules. Rules for civilizations like ours? We just crossed the line." The room was silent for a moment, everyone realizing what that meant. Humanity had thought of itself as small and hidden, a quiet species learning to speak. In truth, the galaxy had been watching, waiting, and now it had reacted. The first official transmission from the unknown fleet arrived. It was short, cold, and terrifyingly clear when translated. "Target confirmed. Containment protocol begins." Ethan felt his stomach tighten. Containment? They mean they want to stop us from growing, from existing like this. Laura's face turned pale. "We haven't done anything. How can they consider us a threat?" Claire shook her head slowly. "It's not about what we've done. It's about what we could do. And in their eyes, that alone makes us dangerous." Across the world, people began to notice changes in the skies. Satellites blinked out, probes stopped reporting. Even communication with Mars stations was affected. Something beyond human understanding was moving closer, not aggressively, not immediately, but inevitably. Ethan and Laura worked long hours in the station trying to analyze every signal, every movement. They pored over data, searching for any pattern, any clue, any weakness. but it felt like trying to read the mind of a storm. Meanwhile, on Earth, ordinary life was being affected. Traffic slowed as people crowded news broadcasts, markets wavered, panic spread quietly but relentlessly. Social media exploded with theories, rumors, and fear. Humanity, which had always felt in control of its small world, was beginning to understand just how tiny it really was. In their small control room, Ethan looked at Laura and said, "We sent a single message. One message. And now the galaxy is here." Laura's hand shook as she typed into the console. "We need to warn Earth. They need to understand that this is bigger than us." Ethan nodded. "And we need to figure out why. Why us? Why now?" Claire, who had been silently watching the displays, finally spoke. "It's simple, in a way. They were waiting, and we gave them a reason to notice. That's all it takes. One spark, one signal, and everything changes." The days passed slowly. Each new sensor report brought more fear. The unknown fleet did not attack, but its presence was overwhelming. Humanity felt like prey being circled by creatures it could not see clearly. Ethan spent long nights staring at the stars, trying to imagine what the aliens thought of them. Did they see humans as ants, as dangerous children, or as something worth studying? One night, as he looked at the monitors, he whispered to Laura, "We wanted to reach the stars. We wanted to know what was out there, but I don't think we were ready for the answer." Laura put a hand on his shoulder. "No one ever is, Ethan. But now we have to face it, and we have to be smart. We can't panic. We have to think." And so, Earth waited. The first message had been simple. Just a greeting. Just proof that humanity existed. But the result was anything but simple. The galaxy had taken notice. Fleets moved silently at the edge of the solar system. Unknown shapes drifted past Pluto. Humanity's time of quiet observation was over. One small message had changed everything. The humans of Earth did not yet know it, but a new chapter of history had begun. A chapter where the world was no longer the center of its own story. A chapter where every choice, every word, every signal mattered. And above all, the first part of the story had only just begun. The Earth was no longer alone. The news of the alien presence spread faster than anyone could have imagined. People stared at the night sky as if they could see the shapes moving beyond Pluto. Rumors ran wild. Some believed the fleet was here to destroy humanity. Others thought it might study them, or even help them. But most people simply felt fear, deep and heavy. President Daniel Carter sat in a secure room deep underground with his top advisors. The room was filled with screens, maps, and blinking lights. On every screen, images of the unknown fleet floated in space, distant but enormous, enough to make even the bravest officers uneasy. "Do we know why they're here?" Daniel asked, trying to keep calm. Claire Morgan shook her head. "They didn't respond directly to us, but based on what we've learned from old signals and the way the fleet is moving, it looks like they're enforcing something." "They are not here to talk. They are here to observe and control." The word hung in the air like a shadow. Laura Bennett stood next to Ethan Brooks. "Control?" she asked. "Are they going to attack us?" Ethan rubbed his forehead. "I don't know, but it feels like we are being tested. They're checking what we're capable of. They see humans as a potential danger, even if we haven't done anything yet." Daniel took a deep breath. "So, they see us as a threat just because we exist?" Claire nodded. "Yes. And worse, the moment we sent that message, we proved we were aware of them. That awareness is dangerous in their eyes. That message triggered what they call a containment protocol. The room went silent. Everyone understood the gravity of the situation. Containment didn't mean simple quarantine. It meant that civilizations like theirs were not allowed to grow unchecked. Humanity had unknowingly crossed a line that civilizations before them had tried to avoid. Meanwhile, across the world, people were panicking in small ways. Markets fell, cities filled with rumors of alien fleets. Social media exploded with images and theories. No one knew exactly what to do. Some families packed their bags and left cities. Others stared at the sky in hope or fear. In the space station orbiting Earth, Ethan and Laura worked tirelessly. The fleet remained distant, but its presence was enough to disrupt communications, satellites, and even small probes sent to the outer planets. Every system was affected. "They are preparing something," Laura said, her voice tense. "We can't see all of them, but they are organizing. There is structure in their movement. It's like they are building a net around us." Ethan leaned over a console, his hands moving quickly. "If we are being contained, then every probe we send, every satellite, every ship, everything is being monitored. We need to understand their pattern, or we won't survive." Claire joined them in the control room. She carried a tablet filled with data from other observatories. They'd been watching Earth for centuries. Not continuously, but in patterns. They have records of our evolution, our wars, our discoveries. Our message just confirms something for them. We are at a level they consider too risky to ignore. Laura's eyes widened. Too risky? For what? Claire's voice was quiet, almost a whisper. For the same reason every species that reached this stage was eventually controlled or destroyed. They don't want civilizations to reach a point where they can challenge them. And now we are on that list. Ethan swallowed hard. So, we're marked. That's what this is. Across the world, ordinary people could not see the fleets, but they felt the change. Satellites stopped functioning normally. Navigation systems faltered. Even weather predictions became unreliable. It was as if the planet itself was being watched, and everything humans relied on was under control. Daniel called another emergency meeting. Military leaders, scientists, and advisors filled the underground room. On the screens, the fleet moved slowly but deliberately. "We have options," one general said. "We can attempt to communicate, try to negotiate, or we can prepare for defense. If they want to attack, we need to be ready." Claire shook her head. "Defense alone will not work. These fleets are far beyond anything we can build. Fighting them directly would be suicide. We need strategy, intelligence, and caution. We need to find a weakness." Laura leaned forward. "Then what do we do? Wait and hope they don't see us as a threat?" "No," Ethan said. "We need to understand why we matter to them. That's the only chance we have. If we can find out what they fear, we can survive." Days passed. Humanity tried to continue life as normal, but the shadow of the fleet hung over everyone. Scientists worked around the clock analyzing old transmissions, looking for patterns in the movement of the ships. Ethan, Laura, and Claire formed a team, combining space observation with data from Earth. One evening, while reviewing signals from deep space, Claire froze. "Look at this," she said. She pointed to a pattern hidden in older transmissions. "This isn't new. They've been watching us indirectly for decades, maybe centuries. Every technological leap we made, every signal we sent, they recorded it. And they only reacted when we sent that greeting." Laura frowned. "So we were always on their radar, but they waited?" Claire nodded. "Yes. And now they consider us potentially dangerous." Our message was a trigger. That one message changed everything. They didn't notice us before. Now they cannot ignore us. The room was silent as everyone absorbed the truth. Humanity had thought it was reaching out with curiosity, but in reality, the curiosity had awakened something far bigger than they could imagine. Outside, the alien fleet moved slowly closer. It was not attacking yet, but its presence caused subtle chaos. Satellites vanished, communication arrays failed. Even distant probes toward Mars stopped responding. People on Earth began to realize that their world had changed forever. News reports tried to calm them, but images of large objects beyond the solar system could not be hidden. Fear spread quickly. In New York, families gathered around televisions, watching every news report. In Tokyo, people stared at the sky, unsure what to do. In London, students and teachers whispered rumors about the fleet, spreading stories of alien watchers and containment protocols. Humanity felt smaller than ever. Meanwhile, Ethan and Laura worked tirelessly in orbit. Every hour they analyzed the fleet's movement. Every hour they searched for a sign of weakness or a pattern they could exploit. "They are organized," Ethan said, tapping the console. "Every ship has a purpose. Every movement is deliberate. They are watching and learning." Laura nodded. "We can't fight them with weapons. We can't hide. All we can do is understand. That's our only hope." Claire joined them with new information. There is a pattern. Every civilization they monitored was given a signal, tested, and either contained or eliminated. Most never had a chance to reply. We were lucky, or unlucky. Our message confirmed our presence. That's why the fleet is here. Ethan felt a chill run down his spine. "So we are the latest in a line of civilizations they have monitored, and now we are being judged." "Yes," Claire said. "And unlike others, we know it. That's dangerous. Knowing makes us different. It gives us a choice they did not expect." Laura looked out the window at the black expanse of space, dotted with distant stars. "Do you think they will attack?" Claire shook her head. "Not yet. Not like we imagine. They are not here to destroy us outright. They are here to watch, to test, to make sure we don't become a problem. That is the containment. And if we fail, then all bets are off." Days turned into weeks. Humanity struggled to adapt. Governments worked to keep people calm, but anxiety was everywhere. Schools, offices, and homes were filled with quiet fear. People whispered about the aliens, about what would happen next. Ethan, Laura, and Claire continued their work searching for answers. Every day brought new data, new patterns, new worries, but also, slowly, new hope. If they could understand why the fleet considered them dangerous, perhaps they could find a way to survive. One night, Ethan sat alone in the observation room, staring at the stars. "We wanted to reach the stars," he whispered. "We wanted to know if we were alone. Now we know. And it's more than we ever imagined." Laura sat next to him. "We can't panic. We need to stay calm. We need to think clearly. That's the only way we survive." Ethan nodded. I never thought curiosity could be so dangerous." Laura smiled faintly. "Curiosity is always dangerous, but it's also what makes us human. And that might be our only chance." And so Earth waited. The alien fleet remained distant, silent, observing. Humanity had awakened something vast and powerful, and now they had to survive the consequences. One small message had changed everything. One greeting had triggered the attention of an entire galaxy. Humanity had stepped onto a stage far larger than they had imagined, and the story had only begun. Above all, Ethan, Laura, and Claire knew one truth. The galaxy had noticed humanity, and once the galaxy noticed, there was no turning back. Earth was changing. People did not see the changes immediately, but they felt them everywhere. Satellites no longer followed their normal paths. Communications between continents became slow and unreliable. Even weather forecasts were wrong. Something beyond human understanding was moving closer, and humanity was powerless to stop it. In Washington, President Daniel Carter met with his advisors once more. The room felt heavier this time. The fleet in space had not attacked, but its presence caused enough disruption to remind everyone how small Earth really was. "We cannot fight them directly," Daniel said, his voice steady but strained. "Our weapons are useless. Our ships are nothing compared to theirs. We need another plan." Claire Morgan, sitting beside him, nodded. "We can't fight them, but we can study them. Observe, learn their patterns. If we can understand what they fear, we might have a chance." Daniel frowned. "And what if they see understanding as a threat?" "That is the risk," Claire admitted. "But doing nothing guarantees we fail." Meanwhile, in the orbiting station, Ethan Brooks and Captain Laura Bennett worked tirelessly. They had begun to track the alien fleet's movements in detail, looking for patterns or gaps in the formation. "They are organized," Ethan said, pointing to the screen. "Every ship moves in a way that covers the others. They watch each other, and they watch us. They are a single mind working through thousands of vessels." Laura's brow furrowed. "And they are waiting. They haven't attacked yet, but I can feel it. Every time we make a move, every signal we send, they respond in small ways. They are learning." Ethan nodded grimly. "They are not just watching. They are testing. Every human action is part of their observation, and we have to assume they know more about us than we know about them." Back on Earth, people were beginning to panic. Markets fell further. Cities filled with rumors and fear. Social media was filled with theories, most of them exaggerated or false, but all feeding the anxiety of millions. Families prepared for the worst, unsure what that might be. Governments urged calm, but even leaders could not hide their own fear. Humanity had never faced a threat like this before. It was not just a war or a disaster. This was something different, something that could erase civilization without even touching it directly. One evening, Claire discovered something new. While analyzing signals from deep space, she found fragments of messages buried in patterns the fleet had left behind. They were not intended for humans, but she could decipher part of them. "They've been watching other civilizations too," she said quietly to Ethan and Laura. "And many of them did not survive." Laura's face went pale. "You mean they destroyed them?" "Not always directly," Claire replied. "Some were eliminated before they could grow too strong. Some were contained, trapped, or isolated until they could no longer threaten the fleet. And we triggered their attention. That makes us the latest in a long line of civilizations they've monitored." Ethan swallowed hard. "So our message wasn't just noticed. It was a signal that we reached a certain level of development. That makes us dangerous to them." Claire nodded. "And they are patient. They observe first. They only act when they are sure of the outcome. Right now, they are still deciding." Daniel called another emergency meeting as news arrived of satellites disappearing and probes going silent. "This is worse than I imagined," he said, looking at the screens. "We are being surrounded." "Yes," Claire said, "they are surrounding us, but it's not just physical. It's psychological. They want to show us that we are small, that we are vulnerable, that we cannot act without their observation." In the orbiting station, Ethan, Laura, and Claire worked day and night. They mapped every movement, every signal, every possible pattern. They realized the fleet was not static. It was alive in a way humanity could barely understand. Each vessel acted as part of a greater mind, coordinating perfectly, predicting human responses, adjusting silently to every action. "This is like being watched by 1,000 eyes that never blink," Laura said, staring at the screen. "And we can't even see the whole thing. We are blind in so many ways." Ethan rubbed his eyes. "And we can't run. We can't fight. All we can do is understand and hope that understanding is enough." Meanwhile, on Earth, ordinary people tried to continue life, but it was impossible. Rumors of alien fleets sparked protests, panic buying, and widespread fear. Schools closed in some cities, while in others people gathered to discuss what was happening. Humanity had never felt so small. Amid the chaos, scientists tried to send messages to the fleet. They wanted to communicate, to learn if the Watchers were intelligent in a way humans could understand, but every attempt failed. Signals were intercepted, blocked, or ignored. It was as if the fleet was testing not just technology, but patience, understanding, and fear. Ethan realized that the fleet's presence was affecting human behavior as much as technology. People were panicking. Governments were fracturing. Conflicts that had been minor became major. Why? Humanity was proving itself unstable even without direct attack. "They want to see how we react," Ethan said to Laura. "They want to see if we can stay calm under pressure." Laura nodded slowly. "Then we have to be smarter than they expect. We have to act, but carefully. Every step matters." Claire agreed. "If we panic, we fail. If we act recklessly, we invite disaster. But if we understand, if we find a way to show intelligence and restraint, maybe we can survive." Weeks passed. The fleet remained near the edge of the solar system, moving slowly, never attacking directly. But its presence caused subtle chaos everywhere. Satellites malfunctioned, communications faltered, and even power grids experienced unusual fluctuations. Humanity was not physically under attack, but it was under siege in every other way. One night, while analyzing old transmissions, Claire found a clue, a pattern repeated in every civilization the fleet had monitored. It was subtle, almost invisible, but it was clear to her trained eyes. "They test civilizations in stages," she said to Ethan and Laura. "First, they watch, then they provoke, then they isolate, and finally, they act. We are in the watching stage, but the next stage is dangerous." Laura's face grew serious. "How dangerous?" Claire shook her head. "I don't know exactly. But from what I can tell, the next stage is when they decide whether we are safe to continue or not. And that decision could mean the end of everything we know." Ethan felt a chill. "We have to prepare, not for war, but for survival. We need to understand their logic before they act." The days that followed were tense. Humanity struggled to adapt. Governments tried to maintain order, but panic was everywhere. People whispered about the alien fleet, about containment protocols, about civilizations that had vanished without a trace. In orbit, Ethan, Laura, and Claire worked non-stop. They mapped every movement, predicted patterns, and searched for weaknesses. They were trying to understand not just the fleet, but the philosophy behind it. What made it act? What made it decide? Then, one day, the first unexpected communication arrived, not from the fleet itself, but from a source far deeper in space. It was brief, a single line of text translated by their AI, "Earth is not the first. Survive what comes next." Ethan stared at the screen. "What does that mean?" Claire shook her head slowly. "It means we are not alone in the galaxy's watch. Others came before us. And they failed. Laura's hand shook as she typed into the console. Then what are we supposed to do? How do we survive? We learn, Claire said quietly. We adapt. And we stay one step ahead. The fleet wants to see how we react. That is our only chance. The message spread across their team like a spark. Humanity had been tested before and failed. But knowing this gave them hope. If others had failed, then they had a chance to succeed. If the galaxy had tried to contain others, perhaps humanity could find a way to outsmart it. From Earth to orbit, people continued their daily lives as best they could. But no one was truly calm. Every day brought new fears, new disruptions, and new evidence that the galaxy was watching. Humanity had been marked, targeted, and observed. And the weight of that knowledge pressed on every mind. Ethan, Laura, and Claire understood one thing clearly. Survival would not be easy. It would require intelligence, patience, courage, and cooperation. Humanity would have to become something more than it had ever been before, and the galaxy was waiting. One small message from Earth had triggered chaos. That message had been simple, innocent, a greeting from a small planet. But the response had been far larger than anyone could have imagined. Humanity was now part of a vast, interconnected web of civilizations, some destroyed, some contained, all watched by forces they barely understood. Ethan looked out the window at the stars, black and infinite. We wanted to explore the universe, he said softly. Now it's exploring us, and we are not ready. Laura placed her hand on his shoulder. We will have to become ready. That's the only way to survive. Claire nodded. And if we fail, no one else will know we ever existed. The truth settled over them like a shadow. Humanity had awakened something far greater than themselves. Chaos had begun. The galaxy had noticed. And the next stage was coming. Every decision, every message, every action from this point forward mattered. The survival of Earth depended on understanding, patience, and courage. And the galaxy was watching. Earth had changed forever. The presence of the alien fleet beyond the solar system was no longer a distant worry. It was a constant shadow, a reminder that humanity's smallest mistakes could be fatal. Governments worked day and night trying to maintain order, while scientists scrambled to understand the fleet's movements and intentions. In the orbiting station, Ethan Brooks, Captain Laura Bennett, and Dr. Claire Morgan were exhausted. They had not slept in days, analyzing signals, tracking the alien formations, and searching for any hint of weakness. Yet no matter how hard they tried, the fleet remained perfect, deliberate, and silent. They're patient, Claire said, rubbing her eyes. Every movement, every action we take, they adjust instantly. They are testing us, not with weapons, but with time and observation. Laura's hands shook slightly as she manipulated the controls. We have to act soon. If we wait too long, the next stage will begin, and we won't survive it. Ethan leaned over the console, staring at the data. We need to send another message, something different this time. Not just hello, not just proof we exist. Something that shows we are not afraid and that we can think. Claire nodded. Exactly. But we have to be careful. One wrong word, one wrong signal, and we could trigger aggression instead of curiosity. Back on Earth, President Daniel Carter and his advisors were debating the same question. The fleet had not attacked, but the indirect effects were growing worse. Communication systems were failing. Power grids were unreliable, and the public was restless. We cannot wait for them to make a move, Daniel said firmly. We must show intelligence, courage, and unity. Humanity cannot be divided now. Military leaders argued about defense plans, but Claire reminded them that no weapons on Earth could reach the fleet. "This is not a fight of strength," she said. "The galaxy is watching, and now it knows we are not afraid." Claire nodded. "And that is the most powerful message we can send. Humanity is alive, aware, and capable. That is our strength." As the fleet moved farther into space, the people of Earth celebrated cautiously. They had not defeated an enemy with weapons or firepower, but with intelligence, courage, and unity. They had survived where others had failed. The lesson was clear. Humanity's greatest strength was not its technology, not its numbers, but its ability to think, adapt, and act together. The galaxy had tested them, and humanity had risen to the challenge. In the months that followed, Earth began to prepare for the future. Space programs expanded, new research centers were built, and humanity's curiosity and courage grew stronger. The stars were no longer distant points of light. They were a place of possibility, challenge, and hope. Ethan, Laura, and Claire continued their work, studying the fleet from a safe distance. They knew the galaxy was vast and full of unknowns, but they also knew that humanity had survived its first contact. That survival gave them courage, and courage would guide the next steps. Daniel Carter addressed the world once more, his voice calm and inspiring. "We have learned that the universe is larger and stranger than we imagined. But we have also learned that humanity is capable of great intelligence, courage, and unity. Today, we celebrate not just survival, but the beginning of a new era. Humanity is ready for the stars." And in the quiet of space, the fleet observed, it had not destroyed humanity. It had not contained them. It had learned something new. The humans of Earth were different. They were unpredictable. They were intelligent. They were courageous, and that made all the difference. Ethan looked out at the black expanse beyond the station. "We are still small," he said,